Hello guys, this morning, this is Mom Talita and Rise and Shine. So I know it's been a while since I've done a video, but I think this one is kind of important. So lately I've been noticing through all the things that's been happening in the news, there is a big surge in people actually looking up preppers. Well, I realized that as a special needs mom that I need to prep as a mom for the coming fall and the coming winter. We all know that every year as kids get together, even prior to COVID, germs are spread, kids start getting colds and the sniffles and the coughs, and sometimes they get and spread viruses as well. But now things are at a greater risk because, of course, kids are getting hospitalized at a higher rate than they used to get hospitalized from COVID. And unfortunately, there are growing cases of kids that are actually dying from the virus. So this video is just going to show you some things that I use as a special needs mom to prep for the winter. Now, before I tell you this though, please consult with your doctor. Please don't just go buy this stuff because you see it on my video and say, well, EpiMom told me. No, EpiMom did not tell you. EpiMom is showing you what I use, and to maybe give you some reminders or even kind of initiate that thought process in you for the things you need for your child before they become in such high demand that it's hard to find in different places. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, the first thing that is a necessity for me for the fall and the winter, and honestly even now, is this. So it's Pedialyte. So my son has a G-tube button, and so he is fed with enteral formula through a tube. And he had a kangaroo pump, but we just got upgraded to an infinity pump. But I use Pedialyte faithfully when he doesn't feel well. Because with that enteral formula, he's supposed to be on continuous feeds, which means he's fed for most hours of the day. He's supposed to be fed between like 18 and 20 hours a day. And sometimes I think his little belly just can't handle it. So when we were going to the emergency room on the front end of him having his disorder, or we were going to the doctors because he would be throwing up or he just wouldn't be feeling well, the nurses would always say, well, do you have any Pedialyte? And at first I said no, but then I started getting some and they said, well, run him some Pedialyte for about 24 hours. You can run it up to 24 hours. Now, when they first told me this, I thought there's no way we can run just Pedialyte because my child also is diagnosed with failure to thrive, which means it's hard for him to gain and keep his weight. So this is what I do with the Pedialyte instead. Anytime he throws up and I feel like it's because it's an intolerance to milk or it just takes, his belly just needs a break, I run half Pedialyte and I run half of his enteral formula for, a few hours. If he tolerates that, I keep it at half and half. If he still is vomiting even after having half Pedialyte, half enteral formula, then I break it down to strictly Pedialyte for no more than about 24 hours so he doesn't lose too much weight. And then I slowly add in more milk until we get back to full strength milk and no Pedialyte. And this is one of the tips that the multiple nurses that I've spoken to over the years have told us about, that helps to keep us out of the doctor's office and the emergency room. Okay, so Pedialyte is your number one. All right, the next one is vital in my household, and every mom, whether you have a special needs child or not, probably has this one. So children's Tylenol. Now this one says cold and flu, but honestly just children's Tylenol. If you're a mom of children, of babies, etc., you know that Tylenol is almost a necessity for those fevers. So part of my son's disorder is that he can't regulate his body temperature the way that you and I can. So if I go outside and it's hot outside, I sweat a lot, but I don't run a fever. He does not sweat as part of his disorder at all. So even if he goes outside for 2 minutes, if it's hot, his body temperature starts going up and he starts to run a fever. So anytime he's running low-grade fevers or he just acts like he's not really feeling that great, and as a mom or a dad, when your child's kind of getting sick, I use the children's Tylenol, and for the most part, normally I have to give it to him just once, and it usually mellows him out so that he's back to his normal self. Now, I'm trying to stock up on this, and if you use Tylenol, I would strongly suggest you do so as well, because like I said, we all know that once the fall and winter hits and you have strep, regular colds, regular viruses, the flu, COVID, and there's no telling what else with it being 2021, that comes up, you want to make sure you're prepared. So I would go ahead and prep and stock up on children's Tylenol. Some of you use Motrin or whatever your children's medicine of choice is. With that being said, if your child has allergies, same thing. I strongly recommend having Claritin, Zyrtec. Some children use Benadryl. We don't, because my son had seizures, and one time he went to ICU because they couldn't get him to wake up. And so as a precaution, we don't give him Benadryl or anything that would make him sleepy. But get your children's medicine, allergy medicine, get you a few bottles, and I would keep it because you're likely going to need it. Okay. The next thing is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, when he gets all snotty, is this thing right here. So if you have not seen this as a parent to a young baby, or somebody like my son, who he is developmentally delayed, but also he can't blow his own nose. So this right here is amazing. This is called the nose, I think it's Frida, and it's called the snot sucker for a stuffy nose. Now, this is the best because it looks just like the picture. There's this red piece at the end, and then there's this longer tube that connects to this blue piece. And there's this little spongy-like device that's in between, so that when you put the red part in your mouth, you suck it up like you're sucking through a straw, but you do it really hard. And the pressure, I guess, from sucking up the air pulls all of the mucusy nastiness out of their nose, and it gives them relief. It doesn't get in your mouth. That was one thing I was worried about when I first got it. I was like, ew, I'm not trying the thing. What if I suck too hard? But the tube is super long. I've never had it happen, even though I've had a ton. I've had about 3 of these. So if you don't have one of these, I prefer this over the little, the little bulb, the snot sucker thing they give you at the hospital when you have a baby. Some of y'all use those, only because I saw online one time that if you keep using those, they're not really designed for long-term use. And that mucus, even though you try to squeeze it out into, a paper towel or whatever and throw it away after you finish each use, some of that moisture gets stuck in the bulb. And I saw a lady cut one open in half one time, and there's mold in it. This I like because you can break apart and you can wash it with one of those little brushes, and it's clean, ready to go for the next go round. So the nose Frida, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but this is mandatory, and definitely stock up on it for the fall and the winter. All right, the last thing that I strongly suggest, if you have one of these, are these little vials. And you want to say, well, what is this? So these are actually what's called albuterol. My youngest and my oldest actually have prescriptions for these, but we use it with what's called a nebulizer, and it looks like it's in liquid form, and it is, and you put it into this little, it's like a face mask that you put over them, and when you turn the nebulizer on, it turns this liquid into a vapor, and they inhale the vapor, and it helps them to breathe a lot better. So anytime Aiden or Owen, who's my oldest, has trouble breathing, I use these to kind of help them out. And for most of the time, you give them every 6 hours or so. But I know with Aiden, with his issues, sometimes they have told us that we can give it to him up to every 4 hours if he's really struggling to breathe. This greatly helps us keep him out of the hospital, because our youngest son, Aiden, which if you watched any of my videos or read any of my blogs, you know that he is a silent aspirator. And so sometimes, even when he's swallowing his spit, because he kind of salivates a lot and he doesn't always swallow it, but sometimes it kind of gets stuck in here. Or if he's super congested because he has a cold, it's hard for him to breathe and catch his breath. And there are times where we've been to the emergency room because they tell you to watch like right in here to see if it like goes in like really deep. And it has before with him. And they say if that's the case, then that means that person is, having trouble breathing. But anytime I have given him the albuterol, even if he's going through that to some degree, it always seems to ease up. So if your child takes albuterol, whether it be in this liquid form through the nebulizer or through the inhaler type pump, I strongly recommend that you prep and ask your doctor, if you don't already have your prescriptions, if you can get, a refill if you're not out of them, so that you can have these for when you need them. So those are just 4 of, honestly, my favorite and basic things. Yes, there are many more. And yes, of course, for you, they may be different. But I wanted to show you the things that me and my family use to prep for the fall and winter. Okay, so just make sure that you wear your mask, grab your items, protect yourself, protect your kids, because if you don't do it, who will? All right, guys, go forth in strength and dignity. Have a great day. Bye-bye.